Welcome to the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast and YouTube channel. I'm your host, Richard Hosnout, and I'm glad to have you back here. As you have probably also figured out from the previous episodes, that the mission, my purpose in doing this channel, this Wisdom Inspired Life channel, is to inspire people, not just educate and inform, but inspire people worldwide to be highly caring and compassionate, while achieving dramatically higher levels of personal happiness. As I've shared previously, when you serve the needs of others, you achieve significantly higher levels of happiness than when you are self-serving and serving only your own selfish needs. Later in this channel's content, I will share with you considerable information from one of my best books out of the 6 that I've published called Ultimate Happiness that will confirm all that for you. So this particular episode follows directly on the heels of the previous one, which talked about basic servant leadership as the most powerful way to achieve our mission of caring and compassion. There's lots of other ways, but I'm starting with what I deeply believe is the single best method, in combination with what I'm going to share with you today, to achieve that mission of being caring and compassionate. How can you be more caring and compassionate than asking, how can I help you? That's caring. What's compassion? Relieve the suffering of others. You're asking, how can I help you relieve your suffering or help you with anything that you've got? It hits the nail on the head, proverbially, okay? Now, having asked that question, and it's a great question, we have to look into the rest of the communication process that happens with that, and that's what the purpose of today is about. Because here's the challenge. Here's the big problem that minimizes the benefits that can be achieved by asking, how can I help you? The biggest communication problem is we don't listen to understand the answer that somebody's giving us to in response to, how can I help you? Instead of trying to understand and listening closely, most people listen, get prepared, so they can reply and talk about themselves. Okay? If you don't think that's true, I would just ask you to be more observant of your communication with people going forward. Do they really listen to you? Or as soon as you're done talking, do they start talking about something that's of interest to them? Okay? That happens all too often. So, what do we do about this? Well, there's a lot of places we can get guidance, but the absolute best guidance on this topic comes from the last few decades, comes from Stephen Covey, a very, very bright man. He's no longer with us, but he published one of the best books about life and business or anything you want to do, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And here's what he said: to listen with empathy is the most important human skill. Not one of the most important, not somewhat important, but the most important human skill. And I cannot fuss with him on that at all. Now, fortunately, Stephen Covey goes into even greater depth, and what I'm going to share with you here is one of my favorite quotes. Unfortunately, it's not simple and concise, like, how can I help you? But it is full of meaning. Stephen Covey, from his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When I say empathetic listening, I mean listening with the intent to understand. I mean seeking first to understand, to really understand. The important part there is to really understand, okay? Not they were talking about something that happened a week or two. No, they were talking about, and then a whole lot of detail and understanding, okay? Empathetic listening gets inside the other person's frame of reference. That's what empathy is. You stand in their shoes. You look out at the world through their lens. You experience it as they are, to the best that you can. You're not them, but you can attempt to understand what they're experiencing with empathy. You look out through it. You see the world the way they see the world. You understand their paradigm. You understand how they feel. Not just the facts, but the emotional content with all that. This is as great a description in one paragraph about what empathetic listening is that I have ever seen. And it's just tremendously great advice. Okay, so how do we do empathetic listening? Well, over the course of decades, I've worked with I've taught at a major university, at Arizona State University, as a professor 6 years. I've been a consultant, I've been an executive coach, and I've developed a specific program of my own that kind of deals with all of this. And I call this program Listen to Learn. So, when you ask somebody, how can I help you? And when they're done giving you their answer, in most cases, I'm going to suggest that you say to them in response, tell me more. What does that do? Well, first of all, it tells them that you're interested in what they're saying. And if they had any reservations about sharing what they're just had with you about this takes it away because they now know that you want to listen. The other aspect of this tell me more is that you're asking a very open-ended question, enabling them to talk about anything that they want to. Because I guarantee you there's things in their first response that they shared with you that don't represent the whole story, and probably a lot of important information. And if they're given permission to tell you even more about it, my experience is they will tell you more about what is most important to them. Now, there's another variation of this that is a little bit more closed in, and that says, tell me more about that. That refers to something that they were just talking about. There might have been an element of it, and they just touched it, and you say, oh, wait a minute, can you tell me more about that? Or an even better version is, can you tell me more about that problem that happened on that day? Okay? You're bringing them in to put a microscope on a particular element that you want to understand more. Now, it's preferable to ask the more open-ended version to start, but as you're listening to their response, how can I help you? When they give you a response and they just touch on something, you say, boy, in my head, maybe there's something more important there. Can you tell me more about that? Can you tell me more about that situation? Okay? What you're doing is inviting them to share more information. And again, this builds trust. All of a sudden they say, wow, this person wants to listen. This person is understanding. They're hearing me. Yeah, there's a lot more. Let me share it with you. Okay? So you're opening them up. And there's not many people in the world that they're going to have this experience with. So this is going to be a great bonding experience between you and this person. Okay? Next level. This is very important. I can't tell you how many times I've used this, and it has been absolutely great. After you've listened, you tell me more about that, and you then get to a point where you say, well, let me just pause here a minute. If I understand correctly, you are saying, and you give your best summary of what you think they have said. Okay? Another version of this, which I prefer to use, is let me summarize what I think I just heard to make sure that I understand you correctly. And I usually add, if I get anything wrong here, please jump in and correct it, make it right. I want to make sure that I have a very clear understanding of what you are talking about. Here's what happens when you do this. Inevitably, and I've done it more times than I care, and because I listen closely, I miss something, I misstate something, or it wasn't exactly what they were talking about. I missed some key parts. Maybe I used different language than they did. Maybe it's a matter of degree. Whatever it is, you want to do two things. One, you want to communicate to them that you hear them. This is what you're hearing, and it's important to you to confirm that what you're hearing is exactly what they're saying. Okay? The person on the receiving end of this again says, "Wow, this person really wants to listen to me. They really care." Okay? Because you're seeking clarity, you're seeking confirmation that you got it. Okay? Very, very important. Okay? Next, this is a step up. It takes what they've said and then extrapolates from that. Is there some other meaning to it? For example, if what you've just communicated to me, that our competitors are looking to have a more aggressive marketing program this summer, if that's true, does it mean that you think we should have a stronger marketing program and be spending additional money on that? Whatever the fill in the blank is for you, you want to understand the implications of what they're saying. Sometimes people give you, in their answer, can give you a stream of facts, and you want to make sure that you understand the meaning of it. If this, does it mean that? Okay? Just understand it. Sometimes people don't fill that part of it in. This is, again, where you seek to test what you think you've learned from them. By doing this, you develop a greater understanding and clarity. Okay? Very powerful step here. Next, very important. When you're at or near the conclusion point of your discussion, thank you very much for sharing that with me. Or, that was very helpful. I prefer the former. Thank you very much for sharing that with me. Usually the sharing involves some level of risk with the person that's sharing it with you, and you want to acknowledge that and thank them for sharing. What will happen? Well, the next time you ask, "How can I help you?" they are going to be more inclined to share and share more fully, because you've gone through the previous steps and you've shown that you appreciate, you reward them for sharing. Okay? Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is go back and listen to the previous episode on servant leadership, how can I help you? And this episode again, and put them all together. I mean, they're short, so at half an hour or less, you'll get both of these. Here's what I'm going to promise you. If you get really, really good at this, in fact, if you just get really good at this, it is going to be one of the most powerful interpersonal actions you take in your life. Just go back to Stephen Covey's comment about being the most important human skill. If you get really good at this, you are going to develop great relationships with people. You're going to get great information. You're going to make better decisions. You're going to be happier. They're going to be happier. This is a win-win-win any way that you can look at it, okay? Very important. That's why I'm leading with these skills out of all of them about how we can be more caring and compassionate. This is simple, straightforward. It passes the common sense test. So again, go back and listen to the previous one and then immediately begin listening to this one. Put it all together, okay? It's important to you. It's important in if you're aligned with the mission of this particular YouTube channel, it's important if you want to become a more caring and compassionate human being, and in the course of doing that, dramatically increasing your personal happiness. That's what this is about. Okay. As always, if you want to learn more about what my Wisdom Inspired Life is, you can go to my wisdominspiredlife.com website. The podcast, Wisdom Inspired Life, lots of information there. You can find about that on the website. Out of my 6 books, I've got 2 of them on there that relate to wisdom. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, there's a brief bio there, and you can go on to LinkedIn to see more. Okay? Thank you Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this. Thank you for taking another step along this journey with me on this mission. For that, I'm deeply appreciative. Thank you very much. And I will be back with you in the next episode with more information, more inspiration to help us take this journey together. Thank you very much.